So I have been training in dance for over 20 years. Unfortunately, I'm not going to bust any moves on this stage today. And frankly, I didn't end up doing dance professionally because I'm here doing this. But what I do want to talk about is some metaphorical parallels that I think about between my dance training and the space that I work in now, which is at the intersection of public policy, AI, and cybersecurity. We've heard today about a ton of amazing things that AI can do in the cybersecurity space, but at the same time, bad actors are in rhythm and they are figuring out how to exploit AI. And so, what exactly are policymakers going to do about that? And that's the type of work that I do. I work with technology companies, figure out what they're doing when developing and deploying AI, and helping them message that to policymakers so that policymakers can create smart policies and regulations around AI. So I want to give a couple of examples of things that are maybe not going as well as they could be and where there's areas for improvement in the policy space around AI and cybersecurity. I'll start by talking about the relationship between industry and government. Let's think of them as a duet partnership and a routine. There's always a little bit of a lead and a follow scenario when you're doing a tango, as the example I've used. But what we're seeing is private companies obviously are leading the way in AI and innovation, but government is still, frankly, learning a lot of the steps. And this is governments across both the federal level, the international level, the state level. And for the purpose of cybersecurity and succeeding in security in this new AI world, there really is a shared imperative for government and industry to find new ways to collaborate. One way of doing that is first just recognizing cybersecurity as a shared core national security concern. But there's also a lot of room to expand public private pilot programs so that we can explore how AI can enhance cyber defense strategies in various sectors, both in industry and in government. And also, there's an opportunity for the government itself to work with industry to accelerate its own adoption of AI. And how we do this is we promote agile procurement practices to support the resiliency of government systems. And this is important because when stakeholders work together, we can respond to threats more effectively. Next, I'll give an example of, let's say you're watching a performance and there's one song playing and you have 20 people on a stage like this, and all 20 people are doing a completely different dance routine. Now, for some observers, they may look at this and say, oh, that's neat, that's very abstract. But a lot of observers are going to look at that and say, I'm not really sure what to take away from this. This is kind of confusing and nothing's really coordinated. And that's what's happening in the policy space across different jurisdictions, which is making it really hard for companies who are at the forefront of innovating in AI and in cybersecurity, where we see an emerging patchwork, unfortunately, of state laws that are very different from one another, or states are trying to regulate AI differently. And this creates a lot of compliance challenges for industry innovators. Similarly, we see a lack of coordination when it comes to global harmonization. There's a lot of different approaches globally, which makes it hard when there's so many things in motion, but not a lot of cohesion. And so, from an industry perspective, there are a couple things that we think about when we're trying to address these gaps or essentially continue operating when there are these sort of regulatory challenges or gaps. One is in the status quo, leveraging and incentivizing the use of certain frameworks, but also just looking for other means to collaborate with other stakeholders across the board so we can begin to thread the needle across some of these issues. Because consistency really matters. And when companies are able to follow very clear policies and understand them well, they can invest in AI and security with confidence rather than feeling strained from too many sets of different rules. Lastly, there is a policy connection to workforce. From a dance perspective, again, you could be the best choreographer in the world, but if you don't have trained dancers to perform your piece, the execution may not fully meet what your vision was. And in cybersecurity, now there's studies showing that 60% of cybersecurity jobs are going to require some sort of AI expertise or understanding. And shout out to SANS for all of the work that you're doing in educating folks about cybersecurity and AI. But there's also a lot of communities and people who still don't have access to knowledge and resources about AI and how to get into this field. And so we need to invest in the next generation of cybersecurity talent before our adversaries outpace us as they continue to automate for the sake of nefariously using AI tools. So, how do we actually, in practice, begin to work towards achieving some of these goals and improving some of these problems? I work for the Software and Information Industry Association, and we advocate for balanced AI and cybersecurity policy frameworks so that companies can innovate responsibly, work to help tech companies navigate this complex policy and regulatory environment at all jurisdictional levels. And I engage directly with policymakers to foster policy that is both practical and future focused. And here's how to connect with me if you want to chat more. Thank you.